trying to keep behind the clock so that I don't want to keep on schedule. There's just one example. This is an article that came out just a couple weeks ago in the Wall Street Journal. And it relates to an interesting study. This was an MPB. But the only thing I want to point out on this chart is it's looking at online women's apparel, so buying clothes online. Who does it? Well, no surprise, baby boomers represent 65% of apparel sales, or at least those over 35. So not boomers, excuse me, those over 35 are the majority of purchases. Yet almost all the marketing, imagery, focus of these sites are on these groups that frankly are shrinking. And the largest growth category was in the baby boomers, right, for online retail clothes. In fact, in a sort of the recession environment, firms that are selling clothes online are finding that this is where the growth is coming from. It's in the baby boomer segment. The article went on to show some other interesting statistics. The fastest growing group of Facebook users are women over 55. If you look at Saks Online, their average age is 42 and rising. And for many of the companies that we have involved with that touch this sector, this is where they're finding hope and growth. And that's pretty important. I think that's what creates opportunities for folks who can market appropriately to them. Now, it hasn't been figured out exactly how you do this, but here's one example from a company called MyShape that has looked at what makes clothes buying and the incredibly high return rate for clothes, the dissatisfaction rate, that they don't fit my body type, they don't fit, a lot of my own care, but a lot of folks in our office are doing, I see the flow through the front desk from Zappos and everywhere else, like, no, back, no, that doesn't work back. It's astounding, 30 to 40% of these products are often returned. Well, I won't read through all this, but the Wall Street Journal, the Wall Street Journal writer went on to say that there just isn't a marketing message going out to this demographic in an effective way, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that the companies, it's sort of a blind spot, if you will, for the incumbents, the big companies that are doing online retail. They don't see a lot of purchases because they're offering products or messaging or marketing messages that appeal to that demographic. They don't see a lot of sales, so they go into sort of a doom loop where they just keep getting reinforcing evidence that maybe it's the 20-somethings that are going to say that they can often or not. So MyShape has found, of course, that the boomers are a big part of the growth currently, and if you market effectively to them, you have a great opportunity to sell more products. Oh, I never mentioned, what MyShape does is they figure out through a quick little, couple of measurements, what are some of what they believe to be 7 basic body types of women, and find clothes that will fit that body type by getting the computer-aided design files that designers use to send to the overseas manufacturing shops. So when you pick your favorite brand, designs a new piece of clothing, there's a computer file that's sent overseas for the manufacturing of the garment. They can deduce just from that computer file exactly how it would fit without, before it's even been built, right, before it's even been manufactured, and map it to all the different types of body types. So if you, figure out which body type you are, you now know, oh yes, whatever, Ralph Lauren's going to fit me, and this one will, and that one will, but not this other group of clothes. And so they have a much lower return rate, closer to 5%, which is indicative of happy customers. And by the way, the supply chain completely changes the economics of online retail. If you can shift, 30 to 40% return rate to 5%, everything changes the economics. So we are learning, as I mentioned, on this sector. We've been looking for the last 5 or 6 years at the boomer market opportunity. And I'll have to say we are still looking, because I think our portfolio is woefully underrepresented. And some of these are, of course, repositioning of products and companies that have multiple target markets. So MyShape is not just selling to the boomers, to be fair. They're discovering, and they're adaptive enough to realize that their product and offering is very well suited to that market. It wasn't their founding vision, to be fair. Glam similarly targets women. I don't know if folks are familiar with, it's the 11th most popular site in the United States, more traffic than Facebook, 100 million uniques a month, and they focus entirely on women. They have more online views than all traditional women's oriented media combined. And are also seeing the same pattern, that all of the fashion messages are aimed at a young demographic, but that's not usually what they're buying. Ingenio is a company that's been acquired by AT&T, but it'll be a prelude to a vision we've had for about a decade, but I've been unable to find the company that's going to craft in sort of the eBay for information idea. It says online services and the marketplace for information should be huge. It should be bigger than the eBay of physical goods. And we think boomers may be able to drive this market. And I will get to that in my closing slide. But we have tried to invest in this area. We've largely failed to make this dream manifest, but we keep looking. So I'll come back to that in a moment. Online education, continuing education, adult education is a major theme. These are all in India and China, it turns out, major online institutions. Where they bring 100 million new students every year into the online education systems, which is pretty amazing. And with a demographic, frankly, that doesn't want to retire and is looking for renewal and new sources of stimulation. We think the online education, re-education, everything from hobbies to professional training is going to be a huge opportunity, largely driven by boomers in the US. And on the far right, there are a couple examples. There's actually a long list here, but I didn't want to sort of belabor it. These are just two of the companies I'm personally involved with that are looking at health and wellness. And clearly any company touching life sciences is looking at demographics, right? And what are some of those needs? So ours is a company I'm on the board of that's largely in pain management. So sore joints and arthritis, and you name it, there is where they're putting all their energy and focus. It had been more in pediatrics in the past. So just like IBM spends more on elder care than child care with their employee base, same with the life sciences companies. It's probably no surprise. Positive Science, Jeff Zimmern, I believe, is here, as well as some other folks from the company. I'll show, oh, there he is in the front, right in front of me. Oh dear, now I was kind of hoping it would be anonymous. Well, I'm going to say a few kind of things about their company. And I actually have some of the material because it's one of the more interesting stories. And perhaps I should pause and highlight it as an example of the kinds of things we look for. When I said we look for unique companies, right, with passionate entrepreneurs that want to change the world, this is a canonical example in that it fell in its early days somewhat between the cracks of, is it a software company, is it a life sciences company? They develop game-like software that helps promote neuroplasticity to prevent cognitive decline, to reverse the effects of cognitive decline. And such a product doesn't fall cleanly or squarely in the domain of a IT investor or life sciences investor. So we often look for these opportunities to fall in the cracks or the intricacies between disciplines. Because frankly, there's less entrepreneurs that integrate these kinds of opportunities and ideas, and there's less investors that feel confident going after them. So if for no other reason than supply and demand, you find more uniqueness when you look for interdisciplinary opportunities. So let me say a few things about Posit. This is one of several graphs you can look at. It shows cognitive function by age cohort and sort of age, percentile or a z-score of a composite of reasoning, spatial visualization, memory, and perceptual speed. The part that's cropped off, perhaps just to make it less depressing, is that the graph is somewhat flat, leading up to a fairly straight slope of decline. So if there's no other takeaway, if nothing I say is interesting, realize that everyone in this room, myself included, is on the same slope of cognitive decline as your parents. Okay? Unless they've slipped with Alzheimer's or some precipitous drop. Now, that's both depressing and a source of inspiration, because this is an average, retrospective analysis, if you will, of people going about their life. Imagine you had a graph of wellness, physical health, when no one knew they needed exercise and didn't. Right? If physical exercise was not in our mindset as something you generally need to stay healthy, imagine how the curve would look. You'd see a general deterioration. Right? Same thing with mental health and the concept of mental exercise. It's only recently becoming clear that there are certain things you need to do and you don't get them in your daily routine, unfortunately. Right? Just like our modern industrial or modern information age society doesn't give us the physical exercise we had when we were hunter-gatherers. Similarly, for whatever reason, we're not in our career tracks getting the kind of cognitive exercise we need to age healthy, in a healthy way. So I'll show you